Today we are joined by former Irish international rugby union scrum half and Irish legend Peter Stringer. He has over 70 caps for Ireland, played in 2 World Cups, is a Grand Slam winner and also has 2 Champions Cup medals to his name. He spent 15 seasons with Munster and finished his career in Worcester at 40 years of age. He is now a certified personal trainer, eager to help people future-proof their life through fitness and nutrition. In this episode, we discuss how nutrition has progressed throughout his career and in rugby circles in general over the past 10 to 15 years. He gives us some insight into his current training in nutrition and how he has achieved even better physical shape since retiring from competitive rugby. And we finish off by discussing Peter's passion to educate people about nutrition and exercise so they can live a healthier life and what advice he would give to people starting on a fitness journey. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Okay, and welcome. My name is Adam Keane. I'm going to be your host today. With me, as always, is our resident nutrition expert, Dr. Crionna Tobin. Crionna, how are you?
I'm great, Adam. I'm very excited about our podcast today. Our guest.
Yes, I'm very, very excited to introduce a man who doesn't really need much of an introduction. Is Peter Stringer. Peter, how are you today?
Very well, thank you, Adam. Very well.
Yeah, very good. So, Peter, obviously, being a professional rugby player, you've obviously come across or had to deal with your nutrition right the way through. But take us back to maybe how you kind of initially got on the scene in terms of playing for Munster, playing for Ireland, and how maybe nutrition played a role and kind of how it progressed through your career.
I suppose initially I always played rugby from a young age up, and I wanted to play for Munster. It was always a dream of mine. I think I left school in 96 and the game went through a very much a transitional period. It was an amateur game when I was in school.
Oh, okay.
And turned pro after the World Cup in 1995. So it then became an option for me to pursue it and look to get a contract, and nobody really knew how it was going to change within Ireland. The IRFU decided to put the 4 provinces in his teams into the professional setup, into the European Cup, and it was a whole new learning curve for players, for coaches, for everyone. And you talk about nutrition, and thinking back to those days, there was no nutritionist, there was no dietary advice or anything. It was very much your chicken and pastas and eat as much of it as you can, and that was kind of the mentality. And no supplements, and it was quite archaic times when you look back at it and think about it. When I first started playing, so 98 was my first cap for Munster, and 2000 was my first cap for Ireland. And when you're involved in a professional setup, and you always look for the edge, and year by year you the improvements in training, in strength and conditioning and nutrition. And over the years, like, the change has just been incredible with full-time nutritionists with teams, and the advice that you get on a daily basis, food available at your training facility nowadays, whereas before you might be told to bring a sandwich and have your bottle of water with you for the day. It's much simpler times. Yeah. So it's just the way it's gone, and the way different people have come on board to help athletes to perform their best on a day-to-day basis, to make sure they're at that elite level, is just phenomenal.
Yeah, and obviously it progressed then throughout your career. Maybe coming towards the end, it was probably would you say the nutrition expert is at its peak, and it's probably even more so again now?
Yeah, I would definitely. It's a thing that athletes are fascinated by, and it's funny, the last couple of clubs I was playing with in the UK, and you'd walk in and all your meals are provided for you, and there's different queues for the forwards and different queues for backs, and different portion controls. And that's a thing that I think people to understand in terms of how much they're training and how often they're training, in terms of portion sizes that they need to eat. And I think a lot of guys probably they wouldn't really know, and I've been asked questions, and it's something that I'm passionate about. My food and my training, it's just an area that I love, and I do a lot of research into it, and I want to know what I'm putting into my body, whereas a lot of the younger guys coming into the system now, it's everything's laid out for them. Mm-hmm. They're told what to wear, told what to eat, told where to be, and things have become very kind of monotonous for these guys, and it's about teaching these guys to think for themselves. Yeah. And that's the challenge for when these guys go home in the afternoon away from that club environment, to be able to cook for themselves, to understand the calorific value of foods that they're putting into their bodies when they're not at that training environment and under the watchful eye of nutritionists and coaches and told what to do. So even though everything is there for them at the club, it's still trying to educate people how to do it for themselves, which is probably still the biggest challenge, even in a professional setup, which I was quite surprised about. But it's something I've learned over the years, and I'm really, really passionate about knowing what I can put into my body and the output then as a result of that in terms of my training and what I can do based on what I put into my body. So it's a fascinating area that I think a lot of younger guys probably need to kind of brush up on their knowledge of things, rather than just doing something because they're told to do it.
And we could probably talk about it for days, but Crionna, just to come in, for an athlete like a rugby player, or even, you know, outside of that, maybe GA or soccer or something, what would be kind of the key things you should be looking at in terms of your nutrition on a daily basis?
So I suppose the most important part is the energy that you're actually fueling your sessions and you're recovering the sessions. And like as Peter said, I think regardless of whether you're playing rugby, GA, a team sport, it's the position that you play. Actually, that can determine, you know, how many calories that you're taking in. And again, you know, as Peter said, and I think it's so true, young athletes are kind of given everything, but in actual fact, for the amount of time that they're spending, you know, in the training centre, it's such a small percentage of the time. And when they go home, if they actually don't know how to, you know, what to eat, how to prepare it properly, you know, why they're doing it. It's the big thing, like, why am I doing this? Then, you know, I suppose, are they they're less likely, I suppose, to have the longevity in their career, definitely, that Peter had. And I think that's the thing, you know, we're pushing ourselves now, and athletes are pushing themselves to have more of a longer career. And I think, you know, rest, recovery, nutrition, yes, all the focus, you know, used to be, I suppose, predominantly on training, but we now know that rest and nutrition and, you know, the psychology of things, it's so much important as you progress in your sport. And it probably makes a difference between a good athlete and a great athlete. And definitely, like, my big, you know, one of my big interests really about you, Peter, is how you, I suppose, maintained for like practically all of your career. I know you've had your ACL because we spoke to Lily, but I mean, how did you maintain such a great, you know, physical shape for such a long duration of time? Like, how did, like, and serious training loads, you know?
Yeah, it was serious training loads.
And like at the start of it, not a lot of nutrition input. And I know everyone was on the same playing field, but I mean, you know.
Yeah, and like you mentioned there, it's a big thing, and it's something that I've taken on board, particularly probably in the last 6-7 years of my career. When I moved away from Ireland to play in the UK, I said, right, okay, if there's not a place for me in Ireland to play, I said, I'm going to go away, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I can play at the highest level for as long as I possibly can. So in terms of training, like you said, rest, recovery, nutrition, and I said to myself, I'm going to have no regrets at the end of this. Whenever this is finished, whether I'm finished through injury or if I finish on my own terms, I'm going to have no regrets when I look back on it and think to myself, I couldn't have done any more. So like, the big point for me is, like I mentioned already, and you touched on it. So when guys go home, yes, they're at the club for those certain number of hours, and I've mentioned it before in different podcasts, that I became that 24-hour athlete. And it's so important in that people have the knowledge, they're educated in terms of when you finish your last session in the day, that's the recovery process has started and the preparation for the next one at 9 o'clock the next morning. It's not like you arrive up to the training centre at 9 o'clock and then you begin. You know, you start the recovery process and the preparation as soon as you finish that last session. And for me, it was about simple things, getting to the pool after my session when everybody else might have been going home and sitting on their couches and playing PlayStation, whatever guys do. And it's something that we're in a privileged position that we get to play professional sport. And for the most part, it's not for a very long time, a long part of our careers. And I wanted to just extend that. I loved what I did. I wanted to have that forever, and ultimately I knew that you couldn't. But if I did everything in my power to be at the top for as long as I could, I'd have no regrets. So it's about looking after yourself and, you know, getting the right number of hours sleep and just those finer details that really, really make a difference. And that's what I did. And right throughout my career, but really in the last 7 years, when I said, okay, I was more determined to do it because I felt that there was no position for me in Ireland to play. I was written off. I was told that was it for me. Hang up the boots. And I said, you know what? I'm still able to play. I still feel really good. I've looked after myself. I want to keep playing at the highest level. And I said I made a conscious effort to just do everything I could. And it's just that, I suppose, that positive mindset to go and do it. And I've no regrets. I can look back on my career now and finished when I was 40. And it's kind of worrying that I'm actually kind of gone a little bit more extreme with my training and nutrition since I finished. So it's but I love it. It's not a chore for me. It's it's something that I'm carrying forward now to be able to do, and I suppose future-proofing myself that when I get to whatever 90 years of age, that I want to be able to do the same thing.
Because when you're having someone on the podcast, you always go, what question would you like to ask? And all of the males. Yeah. And definitely some of the females that we asked, they said, just ask him how he's so ripped now.
It's actually interesting because when you're training for a game, for a goal, a specific goal at the weekend, you've got your match, and it's very much the training and the nutrition to an extent is, you're told what to do, obviously, in terms of your training. But when I've no game at the weekends now, it's great to be able to live by my own schedule, do the training that I love doing, that motivates me to get up at 6 a.m. to train, that I want to get up and that I want to eat the right things because, I see the benefits of it. I can see how my body changes to certain things, the way I train or things I eat. So I think when you see that positive change, and I think that's what people need to see in order to maybe continue with something. If people are struggling with being motivated to train or motivated to eat the right things, that keep going until you see those little changes of being able to walk up the stairs without being out of breath as much as you were before, and just those little triggers that kind of go, do you know what, this is working. And when I see those little things in my own, whether physique or my own fitness levels or my energy levels, then that's a really positive thing for me, and that just makes me want to do it even more.
And how has your nutrition changed from when you were playing?
I'm eating less. Because ultimately when we were training, twice a day. I still train every single day, but the training is different. So you might have been running 30 kilometers a week, at high intensity running from a rugby point of view during your rugby session. So obviously you need a lot more carbohydrates. I'm not eating as many. Yes, I still need some because I'm in the gym. I love going to the gym. I might do a couple of fitness sessions a week, but certainly I'm not running as much as I was before, which, I don't really miss. But that's the leisure that I'm at now. I get to do what I want to do, and that's like what I said. It's not like I'm dreading it every morning when I get up. So but in terms of my nutrition, I'm kind of playing around with a few things and tweaking kind of different carb intakes depending on how often I'm training, and just kind of seeing what I can do with my body and see how it reacts to the food I put into it. So it's
And you have a family, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's like, I assume that Debbie is also very healthy then, because it's very I know, like, having a family, it's difficult if there's one person driving it all the time.
Yeah.
It's possible, obviously.
Yeah.
But are you guys healthy together? Does she have the same ethos?
She does at times, and she'd love to have it a bit more often, but Noah is 2 years of age now, and her life has been, the last 2 years has been dedicated to, being an unbelievable mother, and what she does for Noah is just incredible. And at times she doesn't get to do what she would like to do, and she doesn't have the time to, I suppose, get to the gym as often as she would like, but she does certainly try and eat healthily. At times we will have different dinners. I'm one, I will eat purely kind of from a nutritional and maybe a macro point of view rather than necessarily a taste point of view, but certainly I enjoy my food, and at times I'm probably a little bit more obsessed than she is in terms of my numbers and keeping an eye on things like that. But no, she certainly will. She will fall into line with me, and it's the way she likes it, because she kind of struggles like in terms of from a time point of view, which I totally get. But she'd love to be a little bit more active, and
particularly when her husband heads off to dance with strange women.
Yeah, this is the next
strange women. Yeah. That was I was wondering when this was going to come.
We're going to say, did your nutrition change at all when you were? Probably did.
Did you lose any
artificially.
weight? I'm interested.
No, I didn't. You know what? I didn't. Even though the schedule was very very tough.
Apparently.
So I was in Dublin, and again, like anything that I do, and Debbie said to me, look, if you're going to do this, you do this properly. So I moved up to Dublin for the 3 months that I was on, and she was in Cork with Noah, so it was that was a challenging part. So but it was 8 hours a day for 3 months without a day off, and it was really really tough. And
without a day off for Debbie either.
Yeah, no, I know. Absolutely, it was, and she had a little bit more than 8 hours a day. So, but it was tough. I didn't think it was going to be as full time as it was, and it was a different type of fitness. I didn't lose weight. I still managed to get my kind of weights in, and I ate. I had to eat a little bit more because of the long days, and you're
so
pretty active.
Do you know how many calories you were taking in roughly?
Roughly, I suppose. I was burning off maybe 3,500 calories a day, so I was I'd always try and keep slightly under.
And how were you doing with your I can feel that you're very prepared. I would say obsessed about your nutrition.
A little bit obsessed.
So I've read other interviews with other dancers who said they were able to eat chicken wings, and I can't see you being a chicken wing man. How did you?
No, I'd love chicken wings, but I don't. I'm just this.
Because you're in the dance studio, so were you bringing prepped meals?
Yeah, no, I did. I would bring stuff that I would have made, because it's difficult when you're not prepared and you try and grab something, you make poor choices, and choices that mightn't necessarily be the healthiest, and so I was always trying to be as well, I suppose as prepared as I possibly could. Mm-hmm. So that was something, and I think for the moment of eating a chicken wing might be nice, but those moments of regret that I have afterwards just isn't worth it.
They say a moment on the hips, a moment on the lips.
Yeah, it's not even that, but it's just from a mental point of view. I'd kill myself, and it's not a good way to be. But I'm a little bit obsessed with it. But I do allow myself days where
and you mentioned future proofing, which I think absolutely I would have a similar ethos. I think. We are living longer. We need to be healthier for longer. I mean, there's no point in living longer if you're unhealthy. And I suppose the majority of people they have so much to deal with on a daily basis. They're not privileged enough, I suppose, to be in your position, and some of them are not privileged enough to be in a position where they have a lot of knowledge. How do you, I suppose, dealing with regular people every day, how do you think we should, I suppose, support them, motivate them, because I suppose sometimes it's a lot easier for us.
Yeah, no, it is, and I think my knowledge and my experience has stemmed from being in a professional setup for 20 years, and you have access to nutritionists and fitness coaches, and that's where I've learned everything about my life, and that's what I've taken from it. And I totally get people working long hours, and 9 to 5, 9 to 9, whatever jobs people work. Some people come to me and they're just crazy hours and they literally don't have time, and I think it's just that that simple education. And I haven't done I suppose a degree in nutrition or anything like that, but it's self-read, and I've taken on board what nutritionists have told me. I suppose I've lived their practice and for the last 20 years. So it's a tough one, but I think small changes make a huge difference in people, and trying to create those habits in and around their daily lives. And for me, it's about I started out, we get schedules and we get our routine for the week and delivered to us in an email, and everybody's got a schedule that they stick to for a week, and whether it's job or where getting that work-life balance. And for me, simple things of sitting down on a Sunday that I do now because I have to do my own schedule and put my own kind of life and structure. It's, you know what your week is like coming up, and I think if something is important to you, you got to make time for it, and there's nothing more important. Family and health, and they're the two things that you got to prioritize in your life. And for me, it's about, like I said, sitting down on a Sunday and you, if you can do one session a week, if you can do 2 or 3, whatever it is, if you say to yourself, whatever that starting point is, you factor it in. If it's a 40-minute session or if it's an hour session that you can find time, write it in alongside whatever meeting you have with whatever company or whatever time before you collect the kids for school, or whatever your lifestyle is. If you have it written down in front of you, you become accountable for that, and it becomes very hard to shy away from it. And they're the kind of the things that I've taken on board now, that since I've finished playing professional rugby, that it's up to me, it's my own devices, it's my lifestyle, that if I see it there and I know my schedule, and if it's in there, it's very hard to kind of not do it. Like, I meet people who kind of, they're at work and I meet them for lunch and they can say, I might go to the gym after work today, and that kind of rarely happens when it's not factored in, it's not scheduled in. So like I said, it's just, if it's important enough to you, and it should be, if it's from a health point of view, write it down, and it's there, it's in your diary, as with every other meeting that you go through or whatever it may be. It's a simple thing, but learning then from a nutritional point of view, I suppose, simple things, understanding the basics of food, and it's self-read for me, and understanding your proteins, fats and carbs, and the calories in and around that, and what they do, and how much, I suppose, how easy it is to overeat and how tough it is to burn off calories in comparison to what people eat. So it's just understanding that balance, and once people have an idea of eating kind of certain types of food, it's going to take 3 or 4 hours of working out at a serious intensity to burn that amount of food off. So it's just those little things that I think a lot of people don't know, and even from a professional sports point of view, that I know a lot of my peers wouldn't have understood, the values of food, just because it was made so readily available to guys on a daily basis. So yeah, just for me, the advice is just schedule things in from a training point of view, and just read on the basics of food so you understand that energy balance.
I think that is such a crucial point.
Yeah, it is.
There are so many mixed messages out there in the media of, no carbs, low carbs, high fat, no fat, paleo, but it's the basics.
Yeah.
And it's calories in, calories out. There can be nuances to that, but for the majority
you
of
can
people,
you can then vary it, and depending on what works for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like no one's telling people what kind of type of so-called diet. It's a way of life, I suppose, a lifestyle that you enjoy your food, but you understand the value of it, that you want it to be sustainable. You can't have something that people don't enjoy, because it's just not going to last, and it's just this yo-yo effect. But for me, it's just like you said, the basics, and understanding that.
And basics for, it's the basics for everybody, but then how you implement it is different.
Yeah.
So you could be the person who likes to eat, chicken and vegetable all week long, and then you have 3 pizzas at the weekend. As long as you are getting to your, health goal or physical goal or fitness goal or whatever it is, that's the most important, and that you can do it in a sustainable way, as you said, Peter. It's about factoring it into your lifestyle. It's the most important thing. Yeah. And I suppose that's the difficult thing, but I think it's the writing it down, factoring it in.
Yeah.
What's going to fit into my schedule this week.
Because if you don't do it, then it's like, it's like a meeting that you've missed. It's something that is down, it's in front of you.
And I think we have work goals, you have goals with your family, and a lot of the time, and I think particularly maybe for, women and mothers, they tend to come, second or third down the list. And I certainly know that from being one and from working with a lot of them, in, that kind of weight kind of tends to creep up, and after 10 years, because they focus so much on family and not on themselves. So as well as that, again, it's trying to, I suppose, factor it around, your family, and sometimes being a little bit selfish and saying, I kind of have to put myself first and go and do my training, or, have my separate meal or whatever it is. But allowing people to do that as well.
Absolutely, because if you're not in the right health look at, to look after yourself and your family. That's important.
And
You need
setting examples as well, right? Building those good habits, and then everyone around you will kind of not follow suit directly, but they'll take influence from it for sure.
Sure, yeah.
I just want to talk a little bit about your training and maybe how it's kind of changed. Obviously, you would have had your training, like you said, structured, so you had your matches the weekend, maybe sessions on the pitch versus the gym during the week. But now, are you solely in the gym, or how are you kind of?
I'm a couple of running sessions a week, whether it be treadmill or sometimes it might be on the bike. Just whatever little bit of cardio stuff is available. Hill runs up the driveway at home, which I certainly do not enjoy. But at times when I can't get out of the house, too far out of the house, it's not the easy option because it's the toughest thing that I would have done in a long time. So yeah, mainly in the gym, and I do enjoy that. So I'm in the gym certainly 6 days a week anyway. I'll try and maybe take a day off certainly on Sundays, but they would vary. The content of those sessions would vary depending on kind of the phase that I'm in at the moment, kind of strength and hypertrophy sessions would all be kind of mixed, and different core sessions. So again, it's about me going in, enjoying what I'm doing in the gym, and again seeing the results of kind of hard work that I put in, and I suppose just having that mindset from a training point of view. And it stemmed from those early days of when you start with Munster and those pre-season those horrible training sessions when you as a team, and that's what really kind of builds character. That's that honesty of kind of work rate and performance in those days, in those sessions, I suppose, that people don't really see. They see the kind of the big days when you're in front of kind of thousands of people and see the big games. But I think what stood to me certainly has been those sessions, and guys of a similar mindset around you to drive you and to bring you, and you bring guys on as well. So that, I suppose, that mindset of kind of always pushing yourself and not giving in, and now that I've finished playing, and I've kind of taken it to a new level, because I know I don't have kind of the games and the running to rely on kind of keeping kind of the weight off, and not that I've ever kind of put on weight, but you kind of tend to work harder. The fact that I'm not saving myself for a game at the weekend as well. Exactly. So it's good, and it's just that kind of variation. It keeps things fresh. It's not going in doing the same things every single day. So. And
you don't have to worry about a couple of 100+ kilo lads trying to tackle you on Saturday.
Yeah, that always helps. Running, with these guys running at you, and it's just. I suppose gym work was always a thing that I suppose I felt I needed to kind of develop that kind of strength to cope with kind of the bigger guys in the field, and for the most part, the bigger guys, it kind of maybe it was a little bit easier for them because they were just naturally kind of big anyway. But for me, I always felt that I had to kind of work really hard, and that was kind of another thing that's probably just ingrained in me now as a result of always having to fight that a little bit harder to get to where I wanted.
Because that was my kind of next question around, like, would your training have differed a lot from the kind of heavier lads, in terms of you really probably had to put an emphasis on your strength and actually progressing in the gym in order to, I guess, shift them out of the way if you needed to,
Yeah, well, shift them out of the way, I was kind of run around them if I could, rather than the last option was to run straight into them, to be honest. But it's the way the game has gone, and in many aspects it's changing, and it's very much position specific in terms of your nutrition, in terms of how you train. So for me, I'm going to be doing different training to, say, the prop forwards, who are focusing very much on that strength element of their very heavy squats of 3 or 4 reps, because they're on the time under tension, that they're maybe in a scrum or whatever it may be. So for me, my fitness again was about having that kind of endurance element, as well as kind of a short, sharp speed work. You'd be doing different kind of training based on your position. So in the gym, again, for me, I would always do a few extra sessions as well. Wednesday was always a day off that I suppose the more I did, the better I felt, the older I got. So I think for me it was keeping the body moving, trying to do something every single day. And there was periods in my career where I didn't have an opportunity to play at the weekends, and I wasn't involved in a match day squad, which I suppose had an effect on me that I wasn't playing at the weekend, so you end up doing more training. So you end up training during the week. You do extra sessions because you're not saving yourself. Saturday then you do a session in the morning because you're not playing a game. Sunday you go in because your mind is telling you didn't play a rugby match yesterday, so you're having to go out and do more training. So that was it for the last 6 or 7 years. I was just in a routine that worked for me. I was training every single day, and I felt really, really good.
Okay.
And just didn't allow my body. I suppose I wasn't injured bar the knee. I rehabbed it and I was back after kind of, I suppose, 6 weeks. So I was back playing, and I just kind of had this mindset that I didn't kind of stop to breathe really, and it kind of worked for me. And I'm not saying it's the answer for everybody, and certainly you have to factor in rest and recovery, and I did on a daily basis, and I got the right amount of rest and I recovered well. When I say it was 7 days a week training, but training might incorporate kind of stretching and flexibility, mobility. So I was doing the right types of sessions. I wasn't kind of burnt out, and I was feeling really, really good whenever I got an opportunity to play. So it worked for me, and so I kept doing it. And I suppose I came to clubs in the latter part of my career in the UK, and fitness coaches would have known kind of what I was like based on talking to other guys at the clubs I'd been at, and they didn't even really give me kind of a fitness routine or a gym schedule. They said, look, you know your body at this stage, and you know what works for you, and they weren't going to change something. So when I rocked up to the club at 40 years of age, they weren't going to put me on some sort of a program to try and get more out of me. So I knew what would work for me, and I had that kind of understanding, and that I suppose I'd been educated on, in the gym from an early age. So look, everyone's different. There's different training schedules and training routines for people, but for me, I had to focus a lot in my early days kind of on that strength, and I would always have been, I suppose, pound for pound, kind of one of the strongest guys in the squad. So that I couldn't have done any more in that regard either.
So I'm just conscious of time now, so we'll start kind of wrapping up, but I know this is probably something that Crionna, you're probably conscious that I wanted to ask as well. In terms of general advice, maybe for someone who's starting off from scratch, they don't exercise at all, they're not monitoring their food intake or anything like that. What's kind of the best way for them, would you think, to kind of start their, I guess, fitness journey, or their journey to being a little bit more healthy, whether it be training or nutrition or whatever it be?
Yeah, I think just like we spoke about in terms of that schedule and factor things in, but if it's something like, it doesn't have to be in the gym with weights. It's finding the thing that motivates you and that you ultimately enjoy doing. That's the thing, because if it's something you dread, that's not going to be sustainable. People aren't going to stick to a plan if it's on a bike, or if it's on the rowing machine, or if it's in the pool, whatever it is, if it's a game of tennis, whatever gets you moving, whatever you can do. And I always said it, that when we used to do pre-season training, the focus for us at the end of it, and the goal was to be fitter, and to have that kind of monitored, and to have that kind of those scores at the end to say, yes, he's improved from the starting point to the end point, and that end goal was to be fitter. And how you get there, we'd do fitness drills where in the early days you'd be running up and down a pitch non-stop, and I think mentally what that does is, it's very, very challenging, and for us going forward, and the input that we gave to conditioners and how you integrate it with rugby coaches is, you throw a ball into the mix and all of a sudden people see it as a little bit of fun. And with the advancements of technology and us wearing GPS and being able to monitor speeds and things like that, we ended up working even harder, because you're doing something you enjoy, there's a ball in hand, you're still working on your fitness and your speed, and the end result is probably even better, because you're integrating your fitness with the skill that you want to do. So in a similar way, talking to people who don't know where to start, whatever it may be, if it's in the summer coming up and going for a slightly higher paced walk than you would normally do in the evenings, meeting someone and game of squash, no better game for fitness than a game of squash. It's simple things. Find the thing that you enjoy, and throw it into your schedule, and you'd be amazed at what it does for you physically and mentally, and that's what I'd say. And just a simple little bit of research on nutrition basics, and anyone can access things online. I know there's a lot of things out there, but nutrition 101, as I'm sure you'd say, just learn those basics, but just get out and get moving and do something that you love doing.
Brilliant. And I think I find with a lot of people, when they get exercising, then they do want to put more of a focus on their nutrition afterwards, because they want to maybe match them up or whatever.
Yeah, well, they do go together, and I think it's like that thing when you see a change in your physique, that'll motivate you even more to make sure that you're doing the right things, a little bit more often than probably would have been done before.
Brilliant. So we're coming towards the end of our time with you, and I feel like we could
keep talking.
For hours
and getting passionate about it here.
Yeah, absolutely. But Crionna, is there any kind of closing questions you have before we finish up?
I suppose you've had obviously a long career in rugby. You're a young man. You still have a lot more to do. What is the one thing I suppose you feel is your true strength, and I suppose has gotten you to where you are today, so successfully?
Yeah, I don't think there's a kind of one thing. For me, it's not just about being that professional athlete, and I would really, I would kind of set myself aside from the majority of my peers without sounding big-headed about it, and how I went about my work and my attitude to arriving to work. And granted, it was a job that I loved doing, but for me it was that mindset, and just having that strong mindset every single day of having that kind of image in my head of where I wanted to be at 40 years of age, playing at the top of my game, top competition, and still being, I suppose, one of the fittest in the squad. And I think that, I suppose, development of that mindset, that mental strength, it comes on the back of many I suppose defeats, bad times, a couple of niggly injuries that you can't kind of train through. So from that point of view, it's just being really strong in my mind, and being kind of committed to what I wanted to do. So it's hard to put into words.
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
Cool.
Brilliant. So look, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks a million for
thanks,
on the
lads.
show.
Thanks for
We
having me.
really appreciate it,
problem.
and all the best in your future endeavours.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. That was the incredibly dedicated and driven Peter Stringer. Check out the episode on the Optimum Nutrition UK website if you want links to resources and research which support some of the nutrition aspects discussed in the podcast. Thanks for listening.